Good evening and welcome to the Alabama LSU postgame show right here on Alabama with the Voice of College Football. Also simulcast on the Voice of College Football X account. I am yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and I got my partner in crime, Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports, helping me with the Alabama LSU takeaways. And I can tell you right now, it's a fun ride. Johnny will be back next week, of course, to help us out with the Alabama Mercer post game. Which, although let's be honest, I'm thinking Alabama Mercer may just be the
Yeah,
length of a TikTok video.
it
But that's
really shouldn't be all that eventful. And if it is, something went wrong.
true. Oh man, how have you been doing today, good buddy?
Oh, doing great, man. Definitely appreciate you for inviting me on. Definitely glad to fill in for Johnny this week. And great week to do so because Alabama, wow. I mean, Indiana won, and they're 10-0 for the first time ever. So, cloud nine on that, which is awesome. But then Alabama going into Baton Rouge, Death Valley. I'm like, it's at night. I'm worried about that crowd. I picked LSU. I'm like, you know what? I think LSU is going to be able to squeak this one out at home. They beat them last time that Alabama played at LSU. And then, wow, what a stinker. What an egg that LSU laid tonight. Just an unbelievably horrific performance. Alabama just exposed LSU's defense and their inability to defend the QB run. Unreal. I mean, we knew that LSU's defense wasn't great, but I did think that it was better than it was last year. I thought it was better. And maybe it is statistically still, but tonight it wasn't. And the thing is, that's what I'm saying, Austin. That's what I'm saying. You don't defend Brian Kelly. You don't do it, man. You don't do it. The thing is, I don't think Brian Kelly's a horrible coach, but he's not a great coach either. He's all right at best. And once things go south, he can't figure it out. He can't figure out how to turn games around. He gets that look in his eye, right? He gets that dead eye stare, deer in the headlights look every single time that the game falls apart. He has no answer. So, yeah, you can't defend Brian Kelly after that one. You can't.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just like, holy crap! It's just so funny though.
Oh, it's
But
hilarious. I mean, the facial expressions from Brian Kelly tonight. I mean, obviously he has the same looks that he always does when his team's down big in the fourth quarter. But then he also literally had his hand right here to the referee, like looked like he was chopping him up. Like, what's going on, Brian Kelly? I mean, you already had the fist thing in the USC loss at the beginning of the season during the press conference, and now you got this going on with him looking like he's karate chopping a ref. And then the LSU fans pulling Ohio State, pulling Texas, and they're throwing bottles on the field. Like, that's not going to help you, LSU. Nothing is going to help you. Okay, you got absolutely destroyed in this game. Does that mean Alabama's just way better than LSU? I don't even think that's true. But tonight, in this game, LSU played like garbage. Maybe out of 10 games, LSU would win a couple of them. I still think that's probably true. LSU's got talent, but tonight they laid an egg. They laid a goose egg, even though it wasn't a goose egg on the scoreboard. They were horrible. They were the most, probably, unless I'm missing a game, they were probably the most disappointing team today out of every team that played. They were horrible. Maybe you could say Vandy. Vandy disappointed too, but LSU was not expected to get destroyed against Alabama more so than Vandy against South Carolina.
oh
So
man,
it was terrible.
LSU got slaughtered. So I'm guessing Brian Kelly's like, oh, we got to execute the roster. It's like, I don't think that's what you meant.
No. I mean, everything that he says does it's wrong. It looks like impending doom, just all across the board. And it's just so funny, man. I was scrolling social media. I couldn't help myself. I don't like scrolling social media, but man, yeah, Georgia laid an egg too. They were bad as well. But Ole Miss was really good, really, really good. But I was scrolling social media though, man, and I picked Ole Miss. I got that one right. I picked Ole Miss. But
Oh, there you go.
the thing is that I was scrolling social media and I saw a bunch of Twitter posts. The LSU fans, they hate they literally hate. And I don't like using, hate. I'm not talking about myself. I don't hate it. I don't hate Brian Kelly at all. I got no reason to. He just gifted Alabama a win tonight. I love Brian Kelly. So, but the thing is that the LSU fans hate him, man. And the thing is, when you're a keyboard warrior, I get it, right? Like, you're going to say things you probably wouldn't say to someone's face. But the thing is, I think most LSU fans would probably say these things to Brian Kelly's face. They loathe him. They loathe him, Jackson. It's brutal. I mean, I can't even read some of the stuff they were writing. It's bad.
You think it's similar to, and maybe it's too early to make this comparison, but do you think maybe it's kind of similar to Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M? Because
I think the difference is that I think LSU, I feel like they've done better under Brian Kelly than Jimbo did at A&M overall, looking at their tenures. And I don't know the LSU program all that well, but I don't think they're having as many issues as A&M's roster had. I mean, that's inexplicable how bad A&M's roster was. Guys just getting in trouble, like literally doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing right before, you're going out there to play. I mean, that's great. Or during the halftime of a game. Like, you got to be focused, man. You can't be doing substances or whatever. I don't know. I don't think LSU's program is in that bad a shape as Jimbo's was at A&M. The problem is, though, is that even though A&M's standard is ridiculous and they want to win and win championships, LSU has won a championship while we've been alive. Okay.
True.
Whereas A&M hasn't done anything since 1940. So LSU's standard is higher. I mean, look what they did to Ed O. Dude won a title, and then they just got rid of him after like a year or whatever. They're like, "Oh, you suck." After your coordinators left, then they got rid of him. So I don't know. I mean, I think Brian Kelly is still okay right now, but he better not lose again. I don't know if they got the rest of the way, but they better not lose again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they got Florida next week. They got to go to Swamp. They got Vanderbilt the week after, which we know that Vanderbilt is not exactly an easy win, especially this year.
I did tell you, though, that Vanderbilt was not going to be in the SEC title conversation.
Yeah.
I knew that. I knew for a fact. I wasn't going to bet nothing on it because I don't do that. I don't make unnecessary bets like Austin did with the Brian Kelly thing. But I just, for real, though, I mean, I don't do bets. But, yeah, I mean, I told you that Vanderbilt was not making the SEC title game. And I told you they were not going to factor in the SEC title race. The Bama win, I'm not saying it was a fluke because they played great. But at the same time, Bama played bad. And Vanderbilt played good. So congrats. But still, I mean, Vanderbilt, they're overrated. They are. I mean, for what people were starting to say that they were. They're having a good season. I'm happy for them. They're having a good year. But they're not this, juggernaut of a team here. They're not a top 25 team. Like, people are saying Indiana's overrated. And I probably would agree with that too. But Indiana's better than Vanderbilt. I mean, I get that Vanderbilt's had a tougher schedule, but I just have a hard time seeing Indiana losing to South Carolina 28-7. But at the same time, what do I know? Anything can happen, right? I mean, Indiana was blowing Michigan out earlier, and then they almost blew it. So anything's possible. It's football. I mean, you didn't see it, but the Oklahoma-Missouri game had the absolute most insane ending. Missouri was winning the game. Then Oklahoma had a scoop and score that they helped to take the lead on Missouri. And then literally a drive later, Missouri did a scoop and score on Oklahoma to take the lead back. So karma, it was insane. That game was nuts. The Oklahoma-Missouri game was crazy. Football's weird. So, but Vanderbilt, not a bad team. But yeah, I mean, LSU should beat them. They should beat Florida. If they don't, though, just imagine if they lose those games. Brian Kelly might be done. But I don't think they're going to lose. I don't think they will, but you never know. They could, especially at the Swamp. But the problem is Florida, though, they don't have Lagway or Mertz. So, probably not.
Well, and throughout this game, remember when I said on Thursday night, we're going to have to do what we did against Missouri, against LSU?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we did just that and then some because we had 311 total rushing yards, and all of our touchdowns were rushing touchdowns. No passing touchdowns.
But the thing is that Milroe ran all over the place. Like, Alabama did run the football with Jam Miller. I mean, like, they had success, but 98% of the success was just Milroe running all over the yard. I mean, it looked like backyard football for him. He was playing with LSU's defense. He was having fun out there just dancing around. I mean, the thing is Milroe is capable of this every single game. The thing is, though, is that LSU does have a problem defending QB run. You saw against A&M, Marcel Reed ran all over him. Lenore Sellers, again, the South Carolina quarterback, when he played against LSU, ran all over him. Now, obviously, LSU did beat South Carolina in the end. They did lose to A&M, but still, I think it is a trend. LSU can defend the quarterback run. They struggled with Milroe last time that he played him. So the thing is that you are right, Jackson, 100% on the run game. But what I worry about is that, for me, with Alabama later on in the season, is can Jalen Milroe have these type of games on the ground? Not maybe this good, but instead of 180 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns, maybe he has 80 rushing yards and a couple rushing touchdowns. Can he do that in the college football playoff if they make it? Can he do that against, Auburn or Oklahoma? Should, you would think. But see, he wasn't doing that against Vandy or Tennessee. They're doing it now, but I do think it had a lot to do with LSU's really bad QB defense, QB run defense. But I don't know if that's what you saw, but that's what I saw.
Yeah, we are definitely going to have to get the air going through, as Breakaway 34 said. Because, I mean, it may not bite us in the next 3 weeks, but there will come a game where it bites us.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Alabama's passing offense is that they don't have enough quality, receiving targets that I think Milroe trusts, or guys that just get separation consistently. Like, Ryan Williams is insane. I mean, he's fantastic, but if you shut him down, the other guys are just not that big of a threat. I mean, CJ Dupree at tight end, he's not bad. Obviously, I think they should utilize him more in the offense, but they don't. He's not a bad player, though. And then, you got a couple other receivers that are decent, but none of them are even close to the ability of Ryan Williams. So I just kind of feel like that's the issue, is that they just don't have enough quality receiving talent right now that is going out there and playing at a high level. There's enough talent, but it's not guys that are ready to contribute, obviously, because they're not. And I just feel like, what this game showed is that Milroe is just better when he's able to move around, like I've said for 2 years. When he's able to get out in space, run around, and choose whether he wants to run or pass. I don't think Alabama has to throw for a ton of yards to be able to win games against, teams if they make the playoff. But they are going to have to probably at least pass for close to 200 yards in a game. Not then he have like 108 passing yards in this game. They're gonna have to pass more. But as long as Alabama runs the ball well, I don't think that they have to pass as much as teams like Texas would or something.
Yeah, and I know that I was talking about the LSU defense with Daily Joy and Tyler Natuno on Monday for LSU week, and I talked with Carter Bryant about it on Wednesday for my Jack Stone episode. And we talked a lot about that LSU defense, and I didn't really like where it was at, especially where the statistics were. Because, I mean, they're 86 in passing defense, tied 40th in red zone defense, tied 79th in third down defense, 48th in the rushing defense, and 54th in points allowed per game. You cannot have those kind of stats if you want to beat Alabama. And obviously, they weren't going to.
Funny thing about it is, to me, is that I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that those numbers are better than their defense last year. I really do. Because their defensive numbers last year were completely terrible. Yes, Will, a beautiful, glorious night, right? Indiana's 10-0. Alabama destroys LSU in Baton Rouge. and brought death to Death Valley. And also Notre Dame, your Fighting Irish, just completely just bludgeoning Florida State. Florida State's beyond help. Just the biggest embarrassment of a program that I've ever seen this season. The biggest drop-off that I've ever seen from a program. I mean, yeah, you had the Indiana 2020 season, and then they really sucked in 2021, but it's Indiana. This is Florida State, right? Florida State went from undefeated in the regular season last year to now they're 1-9 or whatever. I mean, it is abysmal, man. 1-8, 1-9, whatever they are. They're bad. They are.
Oh, they're 1-9.
1-9. I mean, Auburn's not even that bad.
No.
Auburn.
I mean, the only win they may get is like Charleston Southern. I'm not even so sure they'll get that.
Honestly, Florida State shouldn't even have a win right now. Cal should have beaten them. Cal is better. Honestly, Cal is better. But Cal just decided to suck that night. Because, I mean, literally, Cal is at a decent season. I mean, they're like 5-4 right now. I mean, they're not good, but they're better than Florida State. I mean, why did they lose to Florida State? Why? Cal could already be at a bowl eligibility right now. Florida State could be 0-10. I'm not trying to trash on Florida State fans, man. I'm sorry.
We love our Florida State friends like George Georgitis and Spiratits and Big Game James. We
tons
love
of great Florida State people out there. Absolutely. I'm sorry that your team is just. I mean, it's. I don't even know. I mean, Mike Norvell, dude. Like, how?
Thank God.
What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do?
Well, we got more. Like, good grief, it's just a disaster.
Do you think they keep them? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
well, they got to. They paid a buttload of money. They put out.
He's got like a $64 million buyout, so I would assume that they would. And plus, what he did last year, but he's gonna just have to completely redo the roster again. And see, that could either work or that could fail again. We've seen it 1 year work, or technically 2 years in 2022, 2023, where it worked. And then this past year, it didn't work. So it's the same thing with Kurt Signetti bringing in transfers for Indiana. It worked this year. Will it work next year? Assuming he stays in Indiana, which I think he will. But, like, you can't just rely on the portal every year. But the thing is, I feel like in a way you can, but you have to make it work every single year. And it did not work for Mike Norvell this year. Every single player that they brought in this year in the portal has not hit. None of them have hit. They have all failed. And they've thrown in the towel.
Yeah.
Yes, he was turning as purple as his team, Will. Absolutely.
Love it.
Purple and red. A combination of red and purple. He was seeing Bama and he was turning purple.
Oh yeah, he was all over the place tonight. That is the funny part. And our guy Austin makes a very good point. Our SEC title hopes are alive and well.
Oh yeah, and with Georgia going down, that helps. I mean, of course. And the thing is, and I'm going to say this once, I'll say it again. I honestly think it would be better for Alabama to miss the SEC championship game. I told you this a while back. And the reason why I say that is because if Alabama makes the SEC championship game and loses, they're probably not going to get in the playoff. Whereas if they went out, beat Oklahoma, beat Auburn, beat garbage nobody team. Sorry, Mercer. I mean, you just shouldn't even be on the schedule. And I know why, because they get money and all that. It's great, but no. It's just a stupid, especially to have this late in the season. It's just stupid. But the thing is that assuming Alabama wins out, which I'm not taking any of those games for granted. Obviously, Alabama could lose to Oklahoma or Auburn. I mean, you never know. They shouldn't, though. But if they went out, Alabama's in the playoff. They're already in the playoff right now. Before this game, they were already projected to make the playoff. So they went out, they're in. Whereas they make the SEC championship game and they lose, and they're 10-3. It depends. There have been a lot of people losing, a lot of teams losing, like Georgia. They're going Miami. I knew Miami was a fraud. I knew it, by the way. I knew it. Miami was not going to keep winning. They finally choked. But that's beside the point. But the thing is that Yeah, Alabama, to me, making the SEC championship game would actually hurt their chances to make the playoff. Now, if they win the SEC championship game, that's fantastic because then they'll get an even better seed and all that. I mean, so there is a benefit to playing in the game, but I just feel like them losing, it's just too risky. So I kind of hope they don't make it, but who am I to say? If they keep playing this well, then maybe they'll win the whole thing in the SEC, win the SEC championship game. But I don't know if you agree with that, Jackson, or whether you think that if they lost, that they would still get in. But I don't think they would.
Honestly, I'd like to see a Texas A&M SEC title game, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But whatever, we get to have Texas A&M on Thanksgiving week.
Well, I agree, Austin. Alabama's a blue blood. Absolutely. I mean, they're the bluest of blue bloods. But at 10-3, lost to Vandy, that's looking worse. I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't probably put them in, and that's being non-biased.
True.
But maybe they would. I mean, you got to remember it's a 12-team playoff, so you have the 4. The highest ranked champions that get the top spots, and then
the group of 5 champion, which leaves room for 6 at-large bids.
So you're telling me that a 3-loss Alabama is going to be among those 6?
They would put it above, like, say, a 2-loss or 1-loss Big 12 team or a 2-loss, 1-loss ACC team that's not named Florida State, Miami, or Clemson.
So just say that the final spot came down to Alabama at 10-3 or Indiana at 11-1, close loss to Ohio State. Who gets in? Because in that scenario, either way, I would be happy, but at the same time, it's like that's kind of not fair, right? If you put Alabama in over Indiana.
I think Indiana would get in by a slim margin.
Yeah.
Like we would put Indiana in. This come from Bama guys such as
I would put Indiana in as an Alabama fan. They deserve it to me. If they barely lose to Ohio State and they have 1 loss and Alabama has 3, I feel like you got to give it to Indiana. Now, if Alabama had 2 losses and Indiana had 1, I'd probably put Alabama ahead. Yeah. But not 3.
I feel like if it came down to let's say SMU loses the ACC title game, for example, they're at 11-2. I feel like Bama in a way would get in over SMU because like you're not really gonna get well SMU did well in the 30s. Oh well, they were fantastic in the A's. Yeah, they had that great first season in the ACC. Well, we saw how the ACC did Florida State. Think they wouldn't do in SMU?
Well, see, the thing is, too, is that you also have to take into account bid stealers. They're already talking about bid stealers like March Madness. So, like, if you are a team like Indiana and you have 1 loss to Ohio State, you're rooting for BYU to win out. You're rooting for BYU to win out because you don't want a scenario where the Big 12 champion, right? You don't want a scenario where just say Colorado wins the Big 12 or something, right? And then BYU is 1 loss. Do they put BYU in over Indiana because they made a title game and only have 1 loss, whereas Indiana has 1 loss to Ohio State and didn't make a title game? You see what I'm saying? And BYU is a bigger brand than Indiana, even though it shouldn't even matter. It really shouldn't, but still, they're a bigger brand in football for now. I really emphasize that because Indiana is really building up their brand, and hopefully it stays that way with retaining Signetti. But that's the thing, though. I mean, that's why you want, if you're in Indiana and assuming they lose to Ohio State, you want them to you want BYU to win out. You don't want BYU to have a loss and lose in the title game or whatever and be able to, get in as an at-large. You don't want a scenario where, like, SMU gets in and Miami does too. You don't want these scenarios. You know what I'm saying? Those hurt, and even though that actually hurts Bama too. Because if Bama did make the SEC title game and have 3 losses and then all these bid stealers happen, that's going to hurt Bama's chances of getting in. So, obviously, if you're an Alabama fan and an Indiana fan, or just any team that's on the outside looking in or in the conversation or whatever, you don't want these bid stealers because they're going to take your spots away.
Well, and they're certainly not going to like where things are going in the 2024 edition of the Holy War as of right now. Utah is winning 21-10 with 35 seconds left in the second quarter, but you didn't come to hear us talk about BYU Utah. You came for the Alabama LSU postgame takeaways.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're going off topic, but I mean, this is all relevant to Alabama, though.
True.
See, and here's the thing, like, legitimately, this type stuff proves that the Big 12 is not that good. It's no offense to the Big 12, but there's a reason it's so topsy-turvy. That's all I heard today on like pregame shows. Oh, the Big 12 is just topsy-turvy, and you never know what's going to happen. You know why you never know what's going to happen? Because none of the teams are very good. Okay, that's the problem. None of them are very – Iowa State, I said all year Iowa State was vulnerable. Iowa State had been scraping by. Where's Iowa State right now?
They're like the poor man's Miami because and it was funny though. I saw Miami Georgia Tech on an Applet. There was like an Applet trivia question asking us who are the two teams for the 2024 season who have made double-digit comebacks multiple times. Miami and Iowa State. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, the thing is that that's a sign of a team that's not great, though. Yeah, you might be winning and finding ways to win, but I mean, think about it. And I told you this the other day. What if Miami had the loss to Virginia Tech and to Cal, 2 games they should have lost? No one would be saying Miami's any good.
No
one would have said Miami was any good. They probably wouldn't even have been ranked. Or if they were, they'd be like 25th if they had those 2 losses. Now losing to Georgia Tech, it'd be 6-3 or whatever. Miami was overrated from the beginning. I'm sorry to Miami fans out there, but it's Cam Ward or nothing. The rest of their team is mid at best, and Cam Ward is very turnover prone. And that's why people are saying his chances of being a really good quarterback in the NFL aren't very good, because of the fact that he relies off chaos. He relies off plays breaking down, and he just scrambles around and finds ways to, make a play or whatever. But he's not a guy that, I just stand in the pocket, break down a D, like you have to do in the NFL. He's not Patrick Mahomes at all. Yeah, Lamar kind of thrives off chaos, but Lamar can also sit in the pocket and throw, especially now in the stage of his career. If Cam Ward doesn't get better at that, plus he's short, he's not going to be an NFL guy. Or he'll get drafted, but he's not going to be a franchise quarterback. But I don't know. I mean, teams are getting exposed. And I will admit that Indiana almost got exposed today. They did. But the problem is that Indiana started out playing very well, and then I feel like they kind of let the moment get to them. I don't know. It's crazy because they haven't done that all season. But people still do forget that Michigan is like actually a really talented team. People do forget that, despite the fact that they're not having a good season. They're still a very, very talented team. I mean, you take like Iowa State. Who do they lose to again today?
They lost to Kansas.
Okay, so they lost to Kansas. You think
my Big 12 darling?
You think Indiana losing to Michigan is a worse loss, or Iowa State losing to Kansas?
Iowa State losing to Kansas.
Okay, that's the thing. So, therefore, Indiana's win over Michigan is still more impressive than even if Iowa State had survived against Kansas. And look at Kansas State. They barely survived against Kansas, and then they lost to Houston. That's what I'm saying. The Big 12 is not there's a bunch of teams that aren't very good. I will say, Austin, because I see your comment, Colorado is talented. At the top, but they still don't have a complete team. They've gotten better. They have addressed holes that they had last year, but they're still not a complete team. I mean, one of their wins was on the final play of a game. So I mean, they're not bad. They're way better than last year. Way better than last year, but still, Colorado is benefiting off the Big 12 kind of not being very good.
Oh, yeah. And Oklahoma State's not even going to be bowl eligible this year.
They're an embarrassment. I mean, the thing is teams like Oklahoma State, West Virginia, best win's probably still Georgia.
Georgia.
Because
No ifs, ands, or
Georgia,
buts.
then LSU. I was saying something else, but I saw that comment. But yeah, I don't know. The Big 12s are just full of a bunch of teams that just aren't that good. Oh yeah, Oklahoma State, West Virginia. The fact that the Big 12 is just so wide open and there's a bunch of teams that can be beat. Basically, every team can be beat except BYU so far. But now it looks like they might lose. West Virginia should be better than what they're doing right now. But hey, they're 5-4, and Neil Brown's saving his job. So okay,
for now.
Just wait till they lose next week or whatever. I don't know who they play, but it's just that's the chronicles of Neil Brown. He reels you back in
They
enough.
play Baylor next week.
Oh yeah, you can lose that game, absolutely.
Yeah, they play Baylor next week. They got Central Florida for Senior Day the week after, and on rivalry week they gotta go Texas Tech.
You can win them all, you can lose them all. That's the thing. That's the Big 12. Literally, every freaking game, you can win them all or you can lose them all, and you can't tell me otherwise. Literally, that's the Big 12. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying that all those teams are bad, but overall, they're just not a standout team. BYU has been really good, but even them, I still don't think that, I don't think they're an elite team by any means. And Shadur is better than Cam Ward. I absolutely agree with you, Will, on that. He is better. Hellas, you can't stop mobile quarterback. That's what I've been saying basically this whole show. I don't know if you heard me earlier, Austin, but you're absolutely 100,000% right. If they could stop Jalen Milroe's legs, then this game would have actually been close. They couldn't. He just ran all over.
It was a disastrous night for the LSU defense. Because as a matter of fact, they allowed 420 total yards. Yikes.
Which that in and of itself isn't even horrendously bad. It's not good, but could be worse. It's just the fact that they didn't get any stops. Like, yards sometimes aren't even the most important thing. There was a game I saw literally this season. I think it was one at that Arkansas-Oklahoma State game where Arkansas had like 650 total yards of offense and Oklahoma State had like 300 and Oklahoma State won. So, yeah, yards don't necessarily matter.
Was it during around noon your time and 3 p.m. your time on September, the first Saturday of September? Yep, that was Arkansas, Oklahoma State.
Yep, that game. I remember seeing after the game that, like I said, Arkansas had way more yards, but they still lost. Like I said, again, yards don't matter. It's points. And all of the yards that Alabama gained in this game resulted in points, basically. They capitalized on every single drive. And that, to me, is what matters. Because, I mean, I agree with you. 420 is not good, but it just say instead of giving up touchdowns, LSU was holding them to field goals, or maybe they got a turnover here or there or whatever. Then you have 420 yards. Like, okay, that's not bad because LSU forced a couple turnovers. Well, LSU didn't force any turnovers. That's the thing. So, yeah, the 420 yards in and of itself, not very good. Absolutely agree, Jackson. But it's just the fact that LSU didn't get stops ever. They didn't get any stops.
True. I mean, it was just it was a bad night for LSU, but a great night for Crimson Tide Nation.
Thing is, Austin, is that if they go 10-3, still that's not even that off. I mean, really, they can still do that. They can win out and
oh yeah, they'll
game.
Win
if they go
out.
10-3, then your 10-2 prediction is not even bad. It's not even bad.
They'll win out, and then they'll probably win their little bowl game, and then LSU is going to get the hype all over again in the off season, and then in summertime when it's time to go get the preseason magazines. I've seen this script millions and millions of times. It'll happen again. That I can guarantee.
Oh, absolutely. I do have to ask you, Jackson, because I'm starting to feel like I feel this way about this player. But Garrett Nussmeier, that guy is just completely 50-50 every single time that he goes back to pass. One play, he makes a fantastic play, 50-yard pass, whatever, and then the next play, he has a stupid pick. He's a 50-50 player. He's so inconsistent. Is that what he is, you think? Or do you think he'll ever get better? Because I'm starting to think
feel
that
like
that's
he's
all that
been
he
a
is.
little. I feel like he can't really win the big games, like because he couldn't win against USC. He couldn't win against Texas.
USC wasn't even a big game. I mean, it was at the time, but LSU should have won that game. I guess in hindsight, that's why I should have picked Bama, I guess.
But still, though, it's Nussmeier. I mean, I was getting on to Drew Allard being the Nets Kirk Cousins. Shoot, this guy's Nussmeier is way worse than Kirk Cousins. Because I mean, at least Kirk Cousins can win a big game every now and then. He can have some accuracy.
Yeah, that's what
but
makes me
Nussmeier,
laugh when people say Kirk Cousins can't win a big game. He can win a big game. He just doesn't do it often. He can win.
But like Nussmeier, he just cannot get done. I mean, with the exception against Ole Miss.
See, that's the thing, though, and people forget that game. I was going to bring it up. The Ole Miss game. His stat line in that game, he was like 19 of 50 for like 300 yards, a couple touchdowns. I think he had a pick or two. I mean, that's what I'm saying. His stat lines are stupid. 19 of 50? That is horrible. Okay, he did enough because he made a couple big plays at the end, and Ole Miss arguably played like trash. See, this is what I'm saying. People say, oh, well, this team's better than this team. Okay, so, again, Bama beat Georgia, but Georgia beat Texas, but Georgia loses to Ole Miss. LSU beat Ole Miss, but Bama loses to Vandy, but the Georgia State beat – okay, you see what I'm saying? No, you can't do that. The transitive property is stupid because, yes, LSU sucked tonight, but, yeah, they beat Ole Miss because Ole Miss didn't play that good against LSU, and LSU did enough.
Texas A&M beat LSU. Then we see South Carolina beating Texas A&M.
But South Carolina beat Vandy, but Bama didn't. But Bama beat South Carolina.
Yeah.
See, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can just dance around this all day. I can do it all day. I can go for an hour.
Oh, we'll be like SpongeBob Squidward skeletons. Just be like, what eternity later?
Forever. I mean, seriously. I mean, I don't get it, man. I mean, I know some people do it to be funny, and it is funny, but it's stupid because the transitive property doesn't actually work because all you're doing is just comparing a bunch of teams' results, and then you find out that those results aren't even. So just say, for example, later on in the year that Ohio State beats Michigan by 40, whereas Indiana beat Michigan by 5, but then you still have that Nebraska result where Ohio State beat Nebraska by 4 and Indiana beat them by 49. You see what I'm saying? You can't do that because sometimes certain teams play better than other teams do. That's just the way that it works. I'm not saying Indiana's better than Ohio State, but you still can't deny the fact that Indiana beat Nebraska by 49 and Ohio State beat them by 4. You can't do that. I'm not saying Indiana's better, but that's the way that it works.
True.
It's the way that it works. Yeah, so South Carolina's better than everyone. Well, guess what? They're not. But they
think
have a couple new games
on that.
He's laughing. We're all joking here, but I mean, seriously, it's funny to me. It really is. But yeah, I don't think Garrett Nussmeier is ever going to be anything special. I mean, he's not a bad player, and he does have some talent. But if he cannot curb his mistakes down, he'll never be good. Because, like I said, one play plays really well. Next play, he throws a pick. He'll have a 50-yard pass and then a pick. And Steven, like I said, not thinking about it. Ohio State most likely will win, but I'm not thinking about it. It's just I'm just using the transitive property talk to prove that some teams don't always play well against other teams, or you have a bad game.
There we go. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens for the rest of the season. Although we know that Nussmeier cannot get it done, except against Ole Miss.
And even then, his stat line was still garbage in that game.
Oh, yeah. 22 of 51.
Or 22 of 51. I keep saying 19 of 50, but you know what I mean. His stat line was bad.
It's horrible.
Pretty close.
It's terrible.
I don't look up stats. I just randomize because, I mean, it's just easier to have conversation with it. But 1950, 22 of 51, he was terrible. His completion percentage was garbage, and they still won. So I don't know if that's, again, a testament whether Ole Miss really played bad that day, which I think it was, or he got lucky on a couple deep throws that ended up completing and they won. But it's just that's the SEC for you as well. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh yeah. But yeah, the rest of the schedule for us, it looks easier, but my thing is do not consider the games that look easy to be the easiest. Treat every game like it's the best game ever.
Well, if they had done that earlier in the year, they would have beat Vanderbilt.
Agreed.
The Tennessee game, if they played better, they could have won. Yeah, but Tennessee is still a good team, talented team. Neyland's tough place to play, all that sort of stuff. Now, if Alabama played like they did tonight against Tennessee, they beat them. But again, they didn't. That's the way it works. You don't always play your best game. But yeah, they didn't treat Vanderbilt seriously at all.
No.
But yeah, if they play the way they played tonight in their final 3 games, they will win. But will they play like they did tonight in their own final 3 games? We don't know.
I feel like maybe like this season is a little bit similar to the 2022 season of Washington. But yeah, because like no one was really talking about Washington 2022, but they were on everybody's radar for 2023 with the magic they were pulling. Because like, why am I bringing it up? Simple. Head coach Kalen DeBoer was there, and the Arizona State. They lost to Arizona State his first year, and oh man, I believe UCLA, Arizona State. There it is. They went on that huge winning streak. I feel like that's where we're going. Is we're gonna have like a huge winning streak. If we can, that's funny, Austin.
Oh yeah.
But we can win out. We just have to do what we've been doing against Missouri and LSU. That's what we really have to do. Keep that running game going. Make sure we've got a good enough passing game and treat our opponents like it's no tomorrow.
Absolutely. I mean, it's easy. It's simple. I mean, like you said, if they play like they did against LSU and Missouri, they're going to easily, and I repeat, easily win their final 3 games. I watched Oklahoma tonight. They're not good. They're not good. They have some talent, but they're not good. But if Alabama doesn't treat them seriously, like they did against Vanderbilt, they could easily lose to Oklahoma. They could. I mean, is it likely? No, but losing to Vanderbilt wasn't likely either. They haven't lost to Vandy since 1984, but they did. It is feasible. You have to play well every game. You cannot overlook any opponent at all. And no. I would think Alabama, better than anybody, would do that, considering they already have overlooked opponents. So, and Auburn, Alabama is always close for the most part, except when it's at Alabama. There have been some recent years where Alabama has completely annihilated Auburn at home. What year was it where they really destroyed them? Was it 2020? Was it 2020 or 2022? It was recently where they just destroyed them.
Well, 2022, it was, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
That was a 49-27 victory.
Yeah, and it was uglier than that. It was the actual game was uglier.
2020 was 42-13.
Yeah.
2018 was 52-21. I was there that day.
Awesome.
Thank you. 2016 was 30-12. 2014 was 55-44, and 2012 was 49-0.
So you kind of getting the point here. Alabama Auburn, for the most part, is always close when it's in Jordan Hare, but when it's at Bryant Denny, recently it's not been close. Because I remember it was the 2022. It was the 2022 game where I was watching the Bama Auburn game. And I watched most of it, but when it got ugly, I did flip it to the Oregon State game that year. And the Oregon State game that year was insane. The Civil War. Great game.
Yeah, I remember that year. Yeah. I was flipping between Alabama, Auburn, Oregon State, and Wisconsin, Minnesota on ESPN.
Yeah, I did check a little bit of that Wisconsin Minnesota game. I did watch a little bit of it, but my laser focus was on Oregon State. It was a fantastic game. But yeah, ironically, we were watching the same 3 games. But yeah, I agree with you, Austin.
Think alike.
Absolutely. But I agree with you, Austin, that Auburn, Alabama, it's you never know. You throw the records out. Bama doesn't need to overlook them. But based off past recent history, Bama has pretty much destroyed Auburn when it's at Bryant-Denny. So they should do it again this year with how bad Auburn's been. But you never know. Auburn could give Bama a game. But Auburn has been pretty atrocious this year overall. But we'll see.
Like they couldn't even hold on to a win against Cal, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri. I mean, they couldn't get anything.
The Vanderbilt game was pathetic. I watched the end of that game, and freaking Auburn had like 6 chances to score at the end. 6. That's not even an exaggeration. They had 6 chances, and they did what with it, Jackson? Nothing.
0.
They did absolutely nothing. Every single one of those drives. It was like watching paint dry. It was just they just kept doing stupid crap over and over again. I'm just like, well, you got all this talent. You're so much more talented than Vanderbilt. And the thing is it was at Jordan-Hare. It was at Jordan-Hare. They had their fans. Their fans were trying to cheer for that garbage. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, if I was there, there's no way in heck I'd be cheering for that. I mean, they sucked. They were horrible. I mean, that's been the biggest thing that has irritated me with Auburn, even dating back to Gus Malzahn. But it's been getting worse ever since Gus Malzahn's been fired, is that when Auburn is playing a big team like Georgia or Alabama, they typically, especially when they're at home, they typically give them a game. But when they're playing teams like, Vanderbilt or Cal or whatever, or Maryland in the bowl game last year, they don't try.
No.
They don't. I mean, what is it then? What are you doing? Because you're not trying. I mean, losing to New Mexico State, I don't care that Jerry Kill was the coach. I don't care that
you shouldn't be getting beat by New Mexico State
as a quarterback. You lose to New Mexico State, but then you almost beat Alabama. That's an effort problem. If you showed the same effort against Bama against New Mexico State, you would have beat them. It's an effort problem, and that is what has irritated me for Auburn for basically about a decade now. And after Hugh Freeze probably inevitably is fired, whoever becomes their next head coach has to preach consistency at Auburn to those players, to that fan base, to that culture, to everybody. Well, I mean, the fan base, they already know, but just everybody. You have to be consistent week in and week out. Everybody, the same. It doesn't matter who you're playing, because that's not Auburn's MO the last 10 years. They do not try against bad teams, and it's frustrating because they have the talent to go 8-4 at worst every year, but they don't because they don't try.
True. It's true.
That's what I don't want Bama to become. I do not want Bama to become that.
No.
Ever.
We just have to do what we've done in the Saban era, and we are good to go. But Jeffrey, I guess this concludes like the post game for Alabama LSU. But first, have you got your Christmas list written down just yet?
I've been working on it.
Well, it's never too early to put a little something in there for sure. I mean, who says November 9th is too early, or November 10th for some of you viewing this show? Because you want to put the disputed national champions, college football's historical 1990s reset, written by the one and only Mark Rogers himself, where he goes over what happened during the 90s, how the decade changed the sport, why the championship results should be questioned, how to critically think through the scenarios to appreciate the accomplishments of teams that were not recognized as champions. This book provides an in-depth analysis of the changes, controversies, and outcomes that defined a decade of college football. Grab your copy now.
Absolutely. It's definitely something to put on your Christmas list, and mine as well, because Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, definitely, he knows his history of college football, and he knows about the 90s, which is what that book is about with the national championships, more so than me and Jackson. Well, Jackson, he definitely reads up on history a lot, so he knows a lot too. But Mark is an encyclopedia for the 90s and 80s when it comes to college football. So if you like that era of college football and want to read about dispute national championship, that is definitely the book for you. Absolutely.
For sure. But if you also want top-notch takes on recent college football, come on into the Voice of College Football X accounts, or as our buddy John calls it, Twits account, where you can get top-notch discussion, debate, and analysis with no off-season. And I can tell you right now, oh, boom, well, what do you know? Got a live show right now from the Voice of College Football. Oh, there's the Alabama show, Florida State. You see fun stuff all over the place. I know. Totally awesome. It's totally awesome, right? I mean,
Can't beat the GIFs. Can't beat the GIFs.
Nope. Oh, man.
I mean, Brian Kelly's got 1 million of them at this point.
Man, there's a lot of them. I mean, there is just so much of them.
There's just sometimes, Jackson, a perfect, you can't say perfect, but just almost as good as you can get for a college football Saturday. This felt like it, man. Alabama just curb stomping LSU. We got Abel Kane's brother saying roll tide. Definitely, just what a win. And then Indiana getting the win. Notre Dame, for Will and Austin. You got Louisville, is doing pretty good in football now and ranked and stuff. Beating Clemson was big. They lost to Tennessee in basketball. I saw that, Austin. I saw that. But, hey, Carolina lost to Kansas on Friday night. That hurt, but it was a good game. But, it wasn't absolutely perfect. But when it comes to college football, it was pretty good, man. I enjoyed this weekend of college football. And hopefully the rest of the season will go really good for the Alabama Crimson Tide and Indiana and some of the other teams that definitely, we are, fans of. But Alabama for sure, hopefully they can win out, man. And whether they make the SEC title game or not, whether they do or not, hopefully they will be able to get in the playoff. They will at 10-2, but I'm worried about making that title game. I don't want them to make the title game and then lose and then they're not going to get in, but we'll see. Definitely Alabama's on the right track. Just can't slip up now.
For sure, man. But in the meantime, what have you got going on your adventures on Only Talk Sports and on Indiana The Voice of College Football?
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Jackson. Definitely just did a post-game live show for the Indiana-Michigan game. If you want to go check that out, would definitely appreciate it. And go subscribe to Indiana at The Voice of College Football, trying to build a community over there of Indiana fans and non-Indiana fans, just like here at Alabama, The Voice of College Football, where you find me and Jackson every Thursday night with the call-in show. You want to subscribe to Alabama, The Voice of College Football, even if you are not an Alabama fan. If you're an LSU fan, if you're watching on the LSU channel, definitely check out Alabama, The Voice of College Football. We want to hear your takes as well. But definitely appreciate if you check out Indiana, The Voice of College Football every Tuesday night. I do Indiana Hoosiers Live, talking about various Hoosier topics and previewing the next week's game. They got to buy this next week, so we're going to be talking a lot of topics. You're not going to want to miss that. And on my YouTube channel, Only Talk Sports, where I talk sports every single day, or at least I try to. College football, college basketball, NFL, NBA. You're not going to want to miss any of it. Got a lot of content coming down the pike, so definitely would appreciate if you go check it out. But most importantly, appreciate you guys for being here tonight for this very fantastic, glorious night of college football for the Alabama Crimson Tide. What a win. And hopefully they continue it the rest of the season. Take it away, Jackson.
There we go. And you can check out what I have to say on Jacksonville CFB on X and on Instagram /threads on Jackson Johnson 543908. Where if some of you are like not too crazy about it, that's okay. You can come on in and see what I have to say about the latest in all college football, NFL, and whatever else going in my little brain on Instagram and Threads. And don't forget to check out some of my latest stuff on Jackson Johnson 979 on YouTube, including some of my latest episodes of the Jacksonian with a very good friend of the Voice of College Football, Power Hour SEC, Power Hour NFL, and Power Hour LSU himself, Carter Bryant, as he joined me to discuss a little bit about the Alabama LSU matchup We even talked a little bit about the impact that Derek Jeter had on the MLB and how it's not the same without him. We talked a little bit about the New Orleans Saints. We talked a little bit about the rest of the NFL. And especially, we talked a little bit about Billy Napier and Sam Pittman being on the hot seat. Although I was thinking to myself, okay, it may have been a little too premature. It may have not been. No, I'm Billy Napier because, I mean, I guess Todd Golden decided he went to go be a pervert. So,
yeah, that whole situation's a mess. I mean, unfortunately, being an Auburn fan right now or a Florida fan, it's tough times right now. Florida, you got a terrible football team, unfortunately. And then when it comes to basketball, you got your coach in hot water. And then for Auburn, your football team is garbage, and you got a coach that has done things in the past that you accused your previous coach of, and then your basketball team's fighting on the plane. So what's going on? I mean, it's a disaster.
I was watching that old sports there. I was like, wait a minute. Is that a real story? Like players?
Yeah, it felt like it was a parody, man. It felt fake, but it's real.
I thought I was watching a South Park episode for some reason, but then it's like, nope, it's true. Players fighting each other on the plane to the point where
plane. I mean, thank goodness that they weren't fighting too hard, man. That the plane didn't crash. I mean, man, it's insane. I mean, you can't be doing stuff like that, man. I mean, relax. You're on a plane. Just drown out the noise. You know, I mean, what's going on? That's just insane. I can't believe that story was legit. I really can't. I mean, our rivals, Jackson, got to get it together. Auburn needs to get it together.
Oh man,
they got some issues going on over there, man. They got to get it together.
So basically their basketball players are fighting each other, which I'm sure Bruce Pearl's putting a stop to that. Hugh Freeze, I mean, he's upset, so I'm sure he's gonna call a hooker on the school phone line. So, I mean, what a way to drown out your sorrows.
When Auburn gets sick of them enough, they'll get rid of them.
Oh yeah, I mean, winning cures all. Like that's the thing. I mean, that is the unfortunate tagline.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you do, right? Like Georgia, you got all the DUIs going on, right, and all these players getting in trouble. But since they were winning championships, it's all good. But if Georgia starts losing 4 or 5 games a season, it'll get exposed. It'll get exposed.
Oh yeah. But with that being said, oh man. You've tuned in for another fun show for Alabama with the Voice College Football. Like, comment, subscribe to Alabama with the Voice College Football. Click on the notification bell so you do not miss no video whatsoever. Let's dominate the SEC part of the Voice College Football. What are you doing? What are we doing to dominate the SEC? Texas and Oklahoma are ahead of us. Let's get up to them. Let's beat them, man. We got to
catch up, man. We got to catch up.
Let's beat Texas at the Voice College Football to the punch by getting the 3,000 subs. And then let's beat Oklahoma at the Voice College Football to the punch. With that being said, we wish y'all a good night. Oh, and did I forget to mention the YouTube memberships? You have a YouTube membership invite where you can come on in and become a YouTube member at Alabama with the Voice College Football. So let's look at it. Let's go check it out, shall we? For $2.99, you can become a Crimson Faithful member, where you can get a loyalty badge next to your name, a member shout out, custom emoji to use in the live chat and comments. And you get priority replies and access to a monthly hangout with all of us by becoming a Saving Disciple for $4.99 a month. And finally, for $9.99 a month, you can become a Bear Bryant legend, where you can not only connect on social media with us, but you can also fill out a content request, like literally any content request, recruiting news, interviews, literally anything you want. We will make sure to fulfill that request. We will not let bad weather stop us. We're not going to let anything stop us. We will make sure we fulfill your request because your investment is important to all of us. right here on Alabama, the voice of college football.
Absolutely. You're not going to want to miss being a member at Alabama, the voice of college football. We got a ton of great content coming down the pipe. Me, Jackson, and Johnny. And like Jackson said, if you got any content requests, if you become a member, we'll definitely try to fulfill it. So you're not going to want to miss it. Do appreciate all you guys for being here, though. It's been a fantastic show. And again, just so excited Alabama beat LSU to stay in the CFP hunt. You got a great shot now. Just can't blow it in these next few games, but definitely got a lot of exciting stuff down the pike. So you're not gonna want to miss any of it.
But my hearing's gotten really bad. LSU. I just had
I
to
don't know, man.
LSU.
I don't know.
I just had to throw it out there just to end the night. And with that, we wish you all a good night and sleep well. Stay safe. Stay warm. It's cold out.
And roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Let's go.